Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan. How are you? Beautiful Ireland, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, I'm in the Radisson. Well, this is a Judy alert, too. I'm in the Radisson by the Atlanta airport where I've been stranded.
In Atlanta, Ireland?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, wait.
Which was my layover to get to Ireland from Mexico.
I feel like we're gonna spend at least half the episode hearing about a travel odyssey, and maybe we'll get to the museum topic that everybody learned about in the title.
Yes, the 6 lesser known museums we love. I am not in Ireland. I'm not going to Ireland, and I'm missing our dear friend's wedding, which is shocking. Considering if you know, I mean, I talked about it on the pod
a lot,
but it's been like all I've talked about.
It's been a subplot consistently for the last 6 months.
Yeah, well,
you commission, just for any new listeners. Hello, I'm Kiernan. That's Ryan, and Ryan has been very excited about this Ireland wedding that had a very strict dress code. He chose. What was it, like a
I didn't choose. I had like
foppish Catholic or something that you had to play at the wedding.
Country dandy.
Yeah, that's a foppish Catholic. It's the same thing in Ireland.
Oscar Wilde's what I was going for. Yeah.
And you commissioned a $high suit.
Oh, I did.
It affected the podcast production schedule.
It affected everything. I mean,
it affected everything. It was weeks and weeks.
It was
of content.
Weeks. It was multiple meetings.
We considered a spinoff, and then Ryan explained on the last episode that he had a 4 or 5 stop journey to get there because you found the cheapest route. I think you were going through Beijing.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was
Dublin.
It was Atlanta out of Mexico, and then Paris, and then Dublin. So it wasn't crazy because the last flight was like an hour.
All right, so you're missing this wedding. So I know there's a story to tell, and I want everybody to know. Ryan was texting me yesterday and refused to give me the story because he wanted to save it for air.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of details. So
I'm desperate to know because all I know is one of your texts mentioned a cop, and I'm very interested in where he or she enters the story.
Atlanta PD. So, so it all begins. I spent the weekend in Puerto Vallarta with my friends, and I had a really nice weekend. And I had an afternoon flight to Atlanta for an overnight flight to Paris. So I thought I planned it all like really well. So I get on the flight. It's like a 3:00 flight out of Puerto Vallarta, and I had two drinks, alcoholic drinks, on the flight. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in economy comfort, which means you don't get unlimited drinks. Like they're not just bringing you drinks all the time, right? Like the cart comes, and that's when you're allowed to partake. And so I had 2 drinks, and I land in Atlanta, and I have an hour and a half to go through customs and get to my new gate. So, not doing a lot of heavy drinking in that hour and a half as I'm, running to the gate. I arrive at the gate, and I am told that I am too inebriated to board the flight.
Oh my God. Really?
Yes. And in my mind, I'm completely normal. I'm staying, I was texting another friend, and I'm like,
how did they even know?
I don't know. The gin, I was just drinking gin. So it's like really strong. So maybe I smelled like I was intoxicated.
Ryan, this is so much worse than I thought.
But it was but the thing is that I wasn't intoxicated. And the irony is that I've boarded planes having far more than 2 drinks. Like 2 drinks is like table stakes, So I was like, okay, well, can I, I'm like, well, I'm not drunk. Can I blow into a breathalyzer? Can I, is there, do I have any recourse here before, because I have to get on this
that's
flight.
Interesting. I've never considered because I knew that was a rule. And the reason I knew this is because, I traveled with my mother, a very nervous traveler, to London this past summer, and she had to take some anti-anxiety stuff. And I know on a previous flight, she took it a little too early and was extremely woozy getting on the plane. And my brother was very concerned. Are they going to like deny mom thinking she's drunk?
Right.
Even though it's really just, chill out pills.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I ask like this random person who's decided I can't board this flight that, I bought and I've flown on Delta a million times. So I figure there must be some sort of person I can speak to coherently and be like, hey, this, must be a mistake. I just got off the flight. You can literally check like I was on your flight. Like I'm not drinking in between these things. And just by asking to speak to someone else, they called the police.
Oh my goodness.
And
I want to get real here though. So you think it was just your smell. You don't think you were staggering. You don't think you were slurring words.
Kiernan, you have drunk with me. How many times have I slurred words when we've drank?
Sure, but not much. You're a fine drinker, but I also think that your Ozempic adventure has changed your consumption habits. So,
true, but it doesn't make me that much of a lightweight.
I really am shocked.
I am not. I mean, the point of the story is, I would say, hey, look, I think I maybe had a drink or two too many, but I still should be able to board. No, that's not the case here. The case here is like,
right.
I had 2 drinks on a flight that I had gotten off of an hour and a half ago. So the odds of even in my system, even having that much alcohol in it was pretty, your body metabolizes a drink an hour. So like,
right.
So,
well, a beer an hour.
I smelled, but I am sure that I smelled more like I had drank than I actually did because I was just drinking gin and on ice. Bombay Sapphire and ice is a good drink. I don't need a tonic. It's a lot of extra calories.
You don't need to sell the drink.
Yeah.
It's not helping your case.
So the police surround me and they are like, sir, you don't make
guns drawn.
Might as well have been. What was really shocking to me is how the Atlanta PD is essentially just an arm of Delta. And they were taking commands from the Delta flight attendants. It was like there was who their boss was. So anyway, I'm like, okay, I have no interest in showing up on the internet in the situation. So I'm just like, let's go. I'm not getting on this flight, clearly. But they decided that my bag wasn't drunk and that my bag should go on a trip around the world. So I didn't get to board the flight. I didn't get to speak.
Let me just, another thing that's just going through my head here is that not only do you not have like recourse or some test, it is apparently just somebody's personal judgment, which does not seem totally right.
There was a tinge of homophobia in there that I'm going to write about later. But yeah.
Oh, interesting. What, did they call you something?
It was, you can see it in the eyes.
Did you try to hit on this person?
No, it wasn't. He wasn't attractive. But like,
did you tell him that? No. The other thing I'm thinking is that you not only do you not have like any recourse, it's hard to argue that you haven't drunk too much when you're getting angry and upset that you start to and panicky. I imagine you were panicky. You're about to miss this flight.
Well, I was flabbergasted.
It's kind of the same thing when somebody tells you to calm down and it only makes you angrier. And you can't say like, I'm calm. Right. Just like you can't say, I'm not drunk.
Yeah. Like, how do you prove that you're not drunk besides the 2 ways that I offer, which was I said, hey, give me a breathalyzer. Let me walk in whatever the police do. There are police there. So I'm like, they're aware of how to do this. But it was already too late because there's just what the Delta policy is whatever random flight attendant or red jacket.
Like gate agent.
His red jacket was boarding me. Just made this decision arbitrarily. So then I go down to get my bag and they tell me that they can't get my bag because it's already gone through customs. And I'm like, yeah, I already went through customs.
And you were with the cops at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The cops are with me.
They're escorting you to be sure you weren't going to go turn up to the bar.
3 gentlemen, 3 police officers.
Did you yell? Were you yelling?
No, because 10 years ago, I might've raised my voice, but now I understand that everyone is recording everything. So again, I did not want to be an internet viral internet sensation. And the thing is,
might have helped the podcast.
I've laughed at a lot of people on TikTok who have like been denied flights, and like I remember an example recently where these women were doing somersaults down the what do you call it, the ramp to go board the flight.
Yeah, sure.
Way. They were doing somersaults. And I'm like, well, that's, these people seem really drunk. I was standing in line reading Proust. Okay. So it's a very different kind of like scene. And that's how I think he knew I was gay. He hates Proust.
Interesting. Dude, a nice Proust drunko.
Anyway, so they won't let me get my bag.
This is such a nightmare.
I
figured your flight was canceled. I had no idea.
So I explained to them, like, I need to get my bag. I have my medication and stuff in my bag. And they were like, what kind of dummy packs their medication? This is literally what they said. What kind of dummy?
The cop said that. What kind of dummy packs their medication?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I didn't realize.
You said, well, I was pretty drunk.
I was pretty drunk
when I was packing. Yeah.
I was like, I needed room, for the 2C I have in my other bag.
Sure.
But they didn't give me my bag. They escorted me out of the place. The next day, I spent 6 hours on hold with various Delta agents, and every time I speak to one of them, they tell me my bag is in a different place. So it's in Dublin, which made no sense because I'm like, why would they send it to Dublin if they knew that I didn't get on the flight to Paris? Then it's in Paris. And then someone tells me it's in Atlanta, and then someone tells me it's in Atlanta, the international arrivals baggage claim, and then someone tells me it's in Atlanta domestic arrivals baggage claim. So I go back to the domestic arrivals baggage claim yesterday. I spent 5 hours yesterday at the airport. I get to domestic arrivals. They recognize me, immediately call the cops.
Oh my God.
Immediately call the cops. Immediately.
Do you think you're like flagged on Delta now?
I have a ticket for today, so we'll see.
Where are you going?
Home, Bogotá, out of this country.
Okay, is Bogotá home? I don't know. You're sort of a wandering.
No, Bogotá's home now. I made the U.S. is not home. So I am hopefully. So anyway, so I go to the domestic thing. They don't have my bag. They say international has it. I say, can you call international? They go, no, we're not allowed to call it. I'm like, you're not allowed to call your colleagues at the other. I mean, it's just completely insane. I'm like, okay, well, can you call me when the bag comes in, and then I'll come get it, so I don't have to stand here at the airport all day. And they go, no, I'm sorry, we can't contact you when the bag comes in. You just have to check. And then the cop's like, why are you waiting? And I'm like, I'm waiting because they won't give me my bag. And then this other person comes, one person in all of Atlanta who seems to have any interest in solving my problem, looks up the bag again and says, guys, it's not even here. It's in international. So then I have to go all the way to international. And the cops tell me do not come back to this domestic bag. I'm like, why would I come back here, dude? I just want my bag. I don't hang out at bag, I'm not like a bag hanger. So I go to international. I have to wait another hour and a half, thankfully under police escort. So I felt very safe. And then I got my bag.
How were the cops to you during all this? Did they understand that something weird was going on?
No, they were completely. It was like it was almost like if Kash Patel was giving them direct orders. Like that's how they treated the Delta. It was like there was no difference between the Atlanta PD and Delta. It is shocking. It is truly. I've never seen anything like it. That was the most shocking thing because you think of like police as like independent, like. He works for me as much as he works for Delta, right?
Sure.
Like he's a servant of the citizens. I'm a citizen, at least currently. Yeah. And but it wasn't like that at all. It was like he completely worked for Delta. He had no interest in anything that I had to say. It was astonishing. And so I have to, if I fly on Delta today, it's just the only flight I got out to get back to Bogotá. But I might never fly on Delta again. I added up since I started flying with Blue State in 2010 to now. I've only flown SkyTeam and Delta, and I spent close to $50,000 on flights. I've never had an incident on a flight. I've never had an incident on a bus or a train either. And so the fact that I wasn't allowed to speak to them as a 15-year customer. With status, with who like you have you ever heard me say a bad thing about Delta?
No, you freaking love Delta.
I love
Delta Davis.
I love Delta. So I was
a huge loyalist. You've said this on many episodes. That's
so
why
it broke my heart.
Earth shaking. All of
that's what I felt. I was just like someone pull up my account and just be like.
This is like a real loyalist.
Yes, this is not just some rando, right? And I'm like always on their flights. I've never had an issue. So anyway, that's my story. I was deeply disappointed. I'm missing the wedding. I did get my bag back. The hilarious thing is at this point, they refused to refund me for the flight to Atlanta because they said I took it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I wasn't going to Atlanta. I was going to Dublin. Atlanta was just where I was stopping. You stranded me here. I don't even know that they're going to pay for the 2 nights in the hotel I've had to wait just to get my bag back that they sent around the world without me. So anyway, yeah, that's my story. It was I'm 43, but in 20 years of serious travel, this is the worst travel incident I've ever had. And
I got to tell you, Ryan, I have an idea for you. I think you got to write the New York Times Tripped Up column. Do you know Tripped Up?
No, but that would be great.
Tripped Up is this. It's people who have hit something horrible in the system, who have unveiled some inner truth about travel and need a resolution both to their exact real problem, and that kind of gets at a kind of hidden truth about how difficult travel can be. So the one that sticks in my mind is there was like a deep dive about a rental car charge, that there was like a collision waiver, rental car.
Oh, God.
And it's the
scam.
fact that often your credit card insurance that covers rental cars will not cover collisions overseas, which, seems like kind of a major gap in the coverage. And the journalist who does it is named Seth Kugel. And I have to say, I think this thing about, is there actually a measurable test for whether somebody is too intoxicated to get on a flight? This seems crazy to me.
Yeah, because there's also like other just legitimate medical conditions that might mimic someone having drunk.
Sure.
To your point, if your mom took an Ativan an hour before, that's not going to make her violent on the plane. It's the opposite. It's going to make her sleep on the plane.
It's like chill. Yeah.
Yeah, but she'll look like
you're a good hang. You're a good hang after a couple drinks.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my story.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And so you got your bag back. You're on your mic right now, so you must have had your bag back. Most importantly, I feel like a major gap that everybody listening is just tearing at their earphones. What happened to your suit? Is your suit okay?
What's even more hilarious is I spent months researching the best way to bring a suit across the sea. And I bought myself
across the sea.
Across the sea, going
on a steamer.
I'm like John Adams here, and so I've got I bought like a very lovely bag that unrolls into it's gorgeous, and
the whole idea is the rolling prevents creases,
too many wrinkles and stuff.
Exactly, rolling is key.
So so the suit is fine.
So did you carry that on?
I did carry it on.
Okay, so the whole time they're calling you a drunkard. You're holding this rolled up custom suit. Did you ever offer to show them the suit? Would I fly with a suit? Do you ever watch Arrested Development? It's like Job when he's wearing his father's suit and he's like, "This is a $40,000 suit."
It wasn't that much, Mom. It wasn't 40,000.
Oh, I just can't. I'm floored. How did the bride and groom take it?
Well, I sent them the email this morning. So
great. We'll be able to do a follow up. I'm serious. I want you to try to get this New York Times. I will help you try to get this New York Times
Send me
because this is huge. This is such a fascinating. Have you gone? What's Delta's policy? I swear we'll wrap it up here because we got to get to the meat of the episode. But what is Delta's official policy on this?
It seems to be it's just like whatever the gate agent says, whatever the red jacket says. A visual is enough,
seems to me to be problematic. Sallow skin, bloodshot eyes. Yeah. That's just what Ryan looks like.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, the bloodshot eyes was from the edible. It wasn't from that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Was there an edible involved?
There was no edible.
Honest,
there was no edible. If I could find edibles in Bogotá, I'd be like the coolest guy in town. So.
How close to the flight start time had you had the drinks? How far? When was your first drink and your last drink prior to trying to board?
My first drink would have been like an hour after we took off from PVR. It's like 4:00. And then my second drink would have been 5:00. And I'm trying to board at 7:30. I mean, it's that ridiculous.
Yeah, you're definitely not. You're fine.
Yeah.
Were you even feeling tipsy?
No, I in my mind, I'm like, no, because usually when I take an overnight flight, I like to come a little buzzed so I can sleep better on the flight. Yeah. And I was telling another friend, I used to have a job where I had to fly from San Francisco to New York, the red eye. And I did it like every month, and I would I would sit at this exact bar, and I would have 3 or sometimes even 4 glasses of red wine, and then I would board the Delta flight. I would board the Delta flight, no problem, and I would sleep for 6 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's no possible.
So maybe you were flagged in the system. Stinks of red wine.
No, I should just stick to red wine. I think the problem was
true. Yeah, you're right. You traded down to gin, which the British consider, a poor man's drink. This might be the problem.
Yeah, well, I was just, anyway. So that's the story.
God, it is shocking. Well, there's going to be follow-ups. We will definitely do a what do we call that segment?
Recalculating.
Recalculating. We'll definitely do a recalculating, visiting this topic. But in the meantime, Ryan, if you're sober enough, I think it's time for us to take off and talk about 6 lesser known museums we love all around the world, I should say. It couldn't fit in the title, but this is going to be a global episode.
Yeah. Tell the cabin crew that I'm not drunk.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. Well, you've splashed your face with some cold water. Come on up for air. We want to talk. This was kind of your pitch for an episode. We've done lesser known museum spotlights before, particularly for London. We've really dug into lesser known museums in London. But you and I have both visited enough lesser known museums that you thought, let's do kind of a grab bag episode that's a bit more global in nature.
Yeah, I think we should start doing some more of these episodes where we just sort of, you and I have been a lot of places. We've done a lot of deep dives, but, sometimes people just love museums. They love bookstores. They love theme parks. And we want to just highlight some of these things from around the world so you can kind of maybe open your mind a little bit when you're doing your next trip plan.
Exactly. So why not start? I mean, granted, you're heading to Bogotá. You going to Bogotá today?
I am going to Bogotá pretty soon after this.
All right, so you don't have a chance to do an obscure museum while you're there in Atlanta, but let's start right here at home, your former home, I guess. I can't believe you're going to Bogotá. You're like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to Bogotá.
I got to go someplace sane.
I'd probably just go to Mom's, but whatever. Let's stick close to home. What is your U.S. choice here for a lesser known museum you recommend?
So this is a museum that I'm sure that because you grew up in Connecticut, but the Wadsworth Athenaeum.
And the Athenaeum.
The
Athenaeum, yes.
The Wadsworth Athenaeum.
Yes. In Hartford.
In Hartford, exactly. And this was a museum that I discovered during the pandemic when, we were trying to figure out every possible thing to do within 2 hours of New York City. And they were open, with obviously with all mask policy and everything. But I was just shocked at how big this museum is. I was imagining a much smaller kind of small town vibe museum, but it's sort of like a mini Met. It's got a little bit of everything. It's beautiful inside. I mean, it's a gorgeous old building. It's one of the oldest continuously operating public museums in the United States, 1842. So it's been around a really long time. And there's just a lot of cool things in the collection. And one of my favorite painters is this gay painter from the 50s, 60s, a guy named Paul Cadmus. And there's two of the most famous Paul Cadmuses at the what's not MoMA? What's the other one? Downtown.
The Whitney?
Whitney, yeah.
Oh man, Ryan, you're not a New Yorker anymore.
Yeah. So
goodness.
There are two of his most famous paintings at the Whitney. But they have a really beautiful one called The Bathers.
Sure, I know that.
That is actually at the Wadsworth. And it's just cool. It's a mix. I really like the mix. I love a museum where I can see Renaissance paintings and I can see really kooky stuff that somebody painted 2 years ago. And this museum gives you a whole mix of that. And I feel like it should be better known. I think it's one of the better museums outside of New York in New England. I know Boston's got a lot of gems too, but I'm just trying to think of other museums in that sort of Connecticut, Massachusetts sort of world. And this one really, really stands out to me.
Yeah, it's I'll even say even growing up in Connecticut, I did not, we didn't do like field trips to the Athenaeum, which is very strange. It's a really terrific collection. I remember I'm not usually one who's too interested in furniture in museums, but they have really cool, unique furniture, and something that completely sticks in my mind is one of the pieces of furniture I have most coveted in my life is at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. They have a 1936 Frank Lloyd Wright designed desk, and it's this beautiful kind of flat rounded desk that has like several layers, and it has like a trash can that's connected to the desk, and it's very arty and horizontal in his sort of way. And oh my gosh, I remember I looked like, were there replicas of this desk available? I wanted to work at that desk so much.
Did you find one?
No, I never found it, but we should link to it in the show notes, because it's very strange for a piece of furniture to hook onto me like that. But yeah, the building of the Athenaeum itself is beautiful. I feel like it is representative, and this is sort of a theme. I covered this in the Detroit episode a bit with the Detroit Institute of Art. All of these cities that have had. And they're kind of the second, third cities around the U.S.
Hartford was rich at one point, right?
Exactly. And they were all rich at some point. Like, there's a reason they are major cities in their area. And that's why, you have Detroit with the auto industry, Hartford with the insurance industry, Cleveland has great, beautiful museums of art, because when all this wealth comes into the community, the philanthropy dials up and they start to amass these collections. And then inevitably they found a cultural institution, and those continue on even past those boom years.
Yeah, and it's so important if you live in these towns or around these towns to support these institutions so they can keep thriving.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talking about the Athenaeum. So Hartford is not a city that I love, but it does, between that and they have the Harriet Beecher Stowe House and the Mark Twain.
I mean, the Mark Twain House is amazing.
I mean, the Mark Twain House is amazing. I'm wondering maybe this is deserving of a little bit of a Hartford spotlight sometime.
Well, I've suggested it, and there's a huge new Twain bio out that's just getting raved.
Oh, yeah, it's mixed. I would say mixed. I was anxious to. I actually really like.
It's Ron, right? Is it Ron?
Yeah.
No, it's John Meacham. It's Meacham.
No, no, it's Ron.
It's Ron Chernoff.
Chernoff, thank you.
Yeah.
Kid, cut that. I like Ron Chernoff. I've read his Washington biography. Obviously, we all know the Hamilton musical, drawn from his Hamilton. And I don't know. There's some. I've heard that there's a lot of time spent on Twain's sort of business failures, which is interesting.
Those are so fun, though.
They're interesting.
He's a kooky guy.
Maybe we can get Ron on the show. I would do that.
Yeah, can we get Ron on the show?
There's a few Twain sites for sure to visit. We could do a travel for Twain episode with Ron Chernow. That would be fantastic. Very good.
I love that. So, Kiernan, did you bring a museum located here in the USA?
I did. This is you went for a bit more of a serious one. I mean, the Athenaeum's kind of like a mini Met feel. I went for a sillier one. So this one is called the Button Museum, and the Button Museum is in Chicago, Illinois, and it is not buttons like on your shirt. Well, you might have one of these buttons on your shirt, but it's not the buttons that clasps your shirt and pants shut. This is pin back buttons. So this is like political buttons, buttons that they sell at coffee shops, buttons that they have at to promote bands. And it is the history of the pin back button. And it comes from this sibling pair that started a company that's called the Busy Beaver Button Company. And it is a functioning button company in this museum, as they call it, which is really more of a gallery with a bunch of sliding shelves that you can pull out and explore. They sort of have this hallway where they present their historic collection of buttons. And I was drawn to it mostly. I love obscure museums, but I was drawn to it primarily because I really like historic political buttons. So I have a small collection of my own of just real favorites. I have like a beautiful golden peanut that was a Carter button. I have an Adlai Stevenson button. I don't know if you know this story. He was sort of lampooned as this egghead, like professorial, put his shoes on the right feet kind of guy. And he did this interview up on a stage once where he was chatting, and he had his legs crossed, and his shoe was the bottom of his shoe was facing the crowd, and he had a big hole. He had a big hole in the bottom of his shoe, and he was torn apart by the crowd and newspapers saying, "Oh God, this guy wants to run the country as president. He can't even keep holes out of his shoes." And his campaign turned it around and it was like, no, he's an everyman. He's wearing those shoes for every bit of their life. He's parsimonious. He's who we should trust with our taxpayer money. And they put out these buttons of a shoe with a little hole in it. Brilliant. So
I do love that.
There's tons of great art, and I love this sort of, I wouldn't quite call it folk art. Actually, one of my next museums is more focused on folk art, but just the creativity that goes when you have this little canvas that you can create something memorable on. And they do a great job of organizing it. If you're interested in political, if you're interested in commercial, if you're interested in music, they're all organized. They've got kind of their best of in frames on the wall. And then you can just sit there and explore these pullouts. And they even give you a little souvenir Busy Beaver button that's labeled souvenir that is just for museum visitors.
That is so cute. You know, it's so funny when I was Googling button museum to find this. There are multiple button museums across the United States. But one that stands out is in Lee County, South Carolina. It's called the Button Museum. And it honors the Button King, a man who created folk art all out of buttons. And he's got cars and cars, and he's got a bathroom, a toilet, all covered in buttons. I mean, it's
wow,
absolutely
okay.
hilarious.
We're gonna have to add that to next list, I guess.
I got to head out there to.
Also, if you're in the Chicago
County
area and you need pinback buttons created, Busy Beaver Company, they do that. They do stickers, they do buttons, and the office is just kind of humming next to you while you visit this little gallery.
Love it. I love functioning factories tours like that.
And now you're heading back to South America because you need to kind of get your feet back under yourself. So I'm guessing that you have at least one, maybe both of your next ones are in that area.
Yeah. So my next one is in Bogotá, and it's a museum.
So you can visit right when you get home.
I haven't been in a while, actually. I was just thinking I need to go see what's new. But this is a museum of contemporary art, and it's often overshadowed by, people go to Bogotá usually for 24, 48 hours, like on the way to Medellin or Cartagena. So they go to the National Museum, or they go to the Botero Gold Museum. These are all terrific places you should go. But this is, if you're into contemporary art and you want to see sort of what's up in the contemporary art scene in Bogotá in the last 20 years, I really recommend the museum. And what I think is really adorable about it, the collection's all over the map. Like, depending on when you go, there might be some great stuff or there might be some cringe stuff. It's like contemporary art can always be. But what's really cool is that they've built it as sort of a mini Guggenheim. And so it looks like a Guggenheim you would see in a video game, because it's much, much smaller than the actual Guggenheim, but it has the same exact setup where you walk up in the circle around the main space. So it's a stunner. It's a real looker. It's really cute, and the collection can be mixed, but I think it's if you've been to Bogotá and you've already done you're tired of Botero and you've seen all the gold, then this is something that I would definitely recommend. It's a little off the beaten path.
That sounds very cool, and I love anything that when the building itself is the attraction and like the artwork is it happens to be a nice addition.
Yeah, totally. And there's some. I've been twice, and I've liked some things, and I've taken pictures of some things to make fun of. So I'll post on the Instagram. I'll post some photos of some of my favorite pieces from all the museums I'm talking about today.
And I know, as you say, like Bogotá can be seen as kind of a through city. But if people are doing tourism in Bogotá, is this one of the kind of major museums of Bogota, or is it even obscure to like locals?
It's like the seventh. I mean, Bogota has yeah. I mean, the major museums of Bogota would be like the National, the Botero, and the and the Gold Museum. Those are the big three that like every tourist does. And then you know, there's a modern art museum, there's a contemporary art museum, there's a bunch of smaller history museums. I have been telling people for years in Bogota that they need like a Met. They don't have that. They need like a more general art museum that's not just dedicated to one of these specific periods.
All right, so that's what the Davis Museum in Bogota, the future Davis Museum, can be that.
Yeah. What's your next one?
So my next one, I'm gonna take us to further afield, also maybe not like a major tourism city, is Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So when I was in business school, there's 1 week of the year that you go and do a consulting project internationally, okay? And Harvard will send you they basically find companies in cities all over the world, and it's part of your tuition that you like pay for this trip, okay? And you get to rank the destinations that you want. I think you get to choose 10. And it can be as close as Finland, and it can be as far as Kuala Lumpur. And when I was looking at the list, I ranked solely based on distance, because I was like, listen, everybody's paying the same tuition. I might as well get the furthest, most expensive plane ticket covered by that same tuition. And so I put Kuala Lumpur. I remember I Cape Town was very high up. The Cape Town consulting I heard was very fun, because you're going to be there. You're going to do a project. You get graded. You have to do a big presentation to the client, customer research, all this stuff. But you do also have some time to go do some tourism. And so Kuala Lumpur was a city I did not know much about. I super enjoyed getting to learn about it. There's some great architectural treasures there. And I remember there was one morning where class wasn't going to start till like afternoon. And I thought, okay, this is like my one window to get in museums. And so I ended up going to the Islamic Arts Museum in Kuala Lumpur. And it blew me away. I think about it regularly as one of the better museum experiences I've had, because it's a global collection of Islamic art. And I love Islamic art. As you know, it's not typically super figurative art, mostly because of the prohibitions within Islam of showing the prophet. And so it's a lot of beautiful design, beautiful textiles, beautiful color, a lot of calligraphy of Arabic letters. And it does a great job of, if you didn't grow up Muslim and you didn't grow up necessarily knowing many Muslims, as I didn't growing up, it'll teach you about the religion in the context of the art and show you this global collection, and also contrast, what art in Saudi Arabia looks like versus Muslim populations in China. And the gallery that I became obsessed with and was just in there for hours, and you would love it, Ryan, because it touches on miniatures, is They have scale models of famous mosques all around the world. And the different architectural styles of mosques, I had no idea the range. You and I have talked about when you go to Europe and you're trying to tour all these cathedrals, you get a little bit of cathedral fatigue, and they all start to blend together because, churches, especially in certain areas, they kind of follow the same footprint. You got the cross, you got the nave, you got the altar, etc. And with mosques, much more variety. Variety in building materials, variety in art, variety in how kind of approachable and workaday they are. I remember there were some African mosques that were built from simple mud bricks that were represented. And then there are these gorgeous artworks that, are just amazing tile work that are meant to impress, that are meant to draw you, that are meant to be the key, the focus of an entire city. And you can take this little world tour of these mosques through this miniature gallery. And I just went back and back and back and became quite obsessed with it. So this is Islamic Arts Museum. I've never come across that take on Islamic art at a single museum. And it is a must visit in Kuala Lumpur.
I love when they do scale models of different types of buildings like that, so you can see the differences. It reminds me of in Monterey when they did the same thing with all the Mayan architecture, and you got to really see the difference between all the different places that you'd been. I think that's a really cool value add. And wow, it reminds me, Kiernan, I was just in Mexico City for 2 days, and I found out that there's a museum of miniatures dedicated to Mexican history that I had never heard of. And
whoa, my God.
I know.
Oh, God.
I know.
How is that not on this list?
Well, because I haven't been yet.
You didn't go?
No, it was closed. I found that it existed on the day it was closed, and I was leaving. So I was like, crap, I got to come back. So that I'll be back.
You're probably so drunk, they wouldn't even let you pass the door.
Yeah, they won't let me into that miniature museum. But no, that sounds really awesome, and a part of the world that I would really love to get to explore more in the.
I'm so proud of how that I took that approach. It was like so the right approach, because when was I going to get to Kuala Lumpur? It wasn't going to be soon. But also there's something there's some names that just to me say adventure, and the name I love saying Kuala Lumpur, and I actually have a lot of good things to do there. So I think we might want to do an episode. Kuala Lumpur.
I think that might totally might make sense. Well, look, let me tell you about my next museum. This is one I've been to more recently in my trip in the spring. I went around Europe and I went to Bulgaria, and I spent a long time in Sofia. Not a long time, but it felt, time moves slower there in Sofia.
That's nice sometimes.
It is nice. Now, I really like these museums in former communist countries where they take all of the stuff that they can no longer display as patriotic, sculpture, and they put it all in one place. And so I have really vivid memories going to Moscow in 2003 and going to this old overgrown park that just was full of these basically fallen sculptures of all these different Russian communist leaders. And there's a similar but much better upkept museum in Sofia called the Museum of Socialist Art. And there are two sections. There's a big outside sculpture park where you've got your massive statues of Lenin and Stalin and all that, all the stuff you would expect. But it's they've kept it up really nice, and it's sort of all really contained. So it almost feels like you're in a graveyard where all these people are buried. And then inside they have a smaller sort of fine art collection of art from the era. And then one of the cool things they have is they actually have the sickle, the hammer and sickle that sat on the top of the Bulgarian Communist Party headquarters.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
that you can see. So it's super cool. It's not huge like this. You can knock the whole thing out in an hour. And I would recommend going on a day that it's not raining, because in my mind, most of the fun is in that outdoor sculpture park, and you want to be able to spend some time there.
That's a fun one. I socialist art, it actually it's not totally divorced from the sense of Islamic art, where if you grew up in the Western art tradition only, I feel like these collections that focus in on non-Western styles can be really eye-opening. And so it sounds like that. I mean, obviously socialism, you're still in the West, but a lot of the influence comes from Russia.
In socialist art, they had the painters, they had good taste in men. I'll give them that.
You're very propaganda heavy. I think socialist art is very interesting looking. I do find it
very strong, young men doing very
strong workers. All right, okay, cute. All right, are we looking at a second tattoo of a young communist worker?
I don't think so. What's your last pick for the app?
All right, this one's obscure. Are you ready?
Yes.
So Catherine and I went on a trip to Croatia and Slovenia. And in Slovenia, I was using Rick Steves as my guidebook at that point. And we went to Lake Blade, which is spelled Bled, but it's pronounced Blade, Lake Blade, which is a major place to go in Slovenia. It's extremely picturesque, really fun. Slovenia is a beautiful country. I think undervisited, probably better for it because it hasn't been over touristed yet. Super traditional kind of wooden houses that have these beautiful gardens and especially flower boxes. I remember the houses have gorgeous flower boxes. And there's another part of the Slovenian culture that I learned about through Rick and kind of, as I tend to do, dug into probably more than Catherine would have liked, which was beekeeping. Okay, beekeeping is.
I have a prediction you're going to get into beekeeping in your 50s.
You would not be wrong if you guessed that I have looked into Somerville, Massachusetts rules around if I'm allowed to keep bees, and sadly, I am not. You have to have, because Somerville's still pretty
that's
urban.
For the vineyard house. That's for the vineyard.
They're very. I'm a man of the people. We're gonna have a Block Island house.
I don't even know.
We're very close together here, and you have to have clearance so that your bees aren't going like attacking other people's property. So we don't have it. I don't have beekeeping, but I would get into beekeeping, and a big part of that goes back to the Slovenian trip, because Slovenian beekeeping is its own subculture, and it is core to how many Slovenians view themselves. Even UNESCO recognizes it as like an intangible cultural treasure. That Slovenian beekeeping is extremely important to the culture, and the reason is because they only raise this one type of bee that is specific to Slovenia. It's called the Carniolan bee, Carniolan bee, and it has these certain characteristics. They're considered sort of more approachable, gentler bees, and they're sort of, there's a lot of Slovenian pride wrapped up in these bees. And they estimate that home beekeepers, so not big bee operations, but home beekeepers, there's probably 200,000 colonies in Slovenia of bees, which is impressive. And it ties to their art, because the bees are kept in these hives that basically have these drawers, and the front of the drawer is an area that, for going back hundreds of years, Slovenians have painted with folk art. And so it'll show local customs, it'll show history, it'll just be whimsical, there can be religious themes, and there is a museum that collects these, and it's called the Museum of Apiculture. The Museum of Apiculture in I'm gonna attempt it. I believe this is the pronunciation. Forgive me if it's wrong. Radovljic, Slovenia, which is close to Lake Blade, but you'll need a car or an Uber to get you there. And they do teach you about beekeeping. They have beekeeping gear and costumes that you can look, but the real treasure chest is this folk art of these drawers that they've collected back long time, and nowhere else in the world are you going to see a collection like that. And they even you can buy as a souvenir one of these, but to me they weren't. They felt like they were manufactured for the souvenir, and I wanted a real, honey stained sort of piece that they didn't have.
Well, reason to go back.
And I, by the way, if you decide to do this, I would pair it with a visit to a local beekeeper. And this is where the Rick Steves guides are second to none, where he actually gives you a phone number to call to try to arrange a visit with a beekeeper who's a bit outside Lake Blade. And Catherine and I did that. We drove there. We could not. It's so rural, and we didn't have cell service. We couldn't find the beekeeper. We ended up wandering this neighborhood. We were an hour late. He thought we were not coming. We thought he wasn't there. And he was kind enough to open it up. And I remember he was very big on the fact that different types of honey can cure anything that ails you, including, according to this beekeeper, the Slovenian beekeeper, cancer. Which it might be something that the CDC wants to look into.
I think there's some evidence that local allergies, if you're eating,
sure, that's
honey,
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, and of course you can pick up some really spectacular honey.
Honey. Whether or not it's going to cure you, it's going to be delicious. So
the Museum of Apiculture, pretty obscure, but well worth it if you're as interested in the subculture of beekeeping as I am.
Well, I think with that, it's time for the last stop.
That's a bee saying the last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're here in the last stop. This is the final segment of the show, the last segment of the show. That's why we call it the last stop. And it's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment because this is a time where we come together and we share. It's more communal than the nuts and bolts of Takeoff. Here in this segment, we kind of calm down. We take a step back. It's more meditative, and we share. We share one thing each week. You bring something, I bring something. It can be anything. It could be a toy. It could be a tale. It could be an article. It could be a song. Anything, but it has to meet one criterion. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, you've been having a tough, highly workaday week. So I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan, and this is a New York last stop. That I was reading an article in Untapped New York, and I love the Untapped series. Always a lot of fun stuff in there. And they were talking about why there are a handful of New York City public school buildings that are beautiful, while the rest are less than beautiful. And it all comes down to this dude named C.B.J. Snyder, he was both an architect and the superintendent of school buildings in the 1800s. And he thought that public schools should be cathedrals of learning. And so he designed these really beautiful schools that all look like they could, they would be well at home on like a college campus. And, he designed them out throughout the 1800s, and he retired in 1923 after almost 100 schools that he had designed. And a bunch of them are still standing, including one in Flatbush that seems to be the best preserved example. And if you can imagine, like, it looks like half church, half, it looks like something you might see at one of the schools you went to, Kiernan, beautiful, beautiful brick, beautiful stone. And it's just interesting because the article then goes through to show some schools that were constructed in the 70s and the 80s, and they look like prisons. And
even schools that have the beautiful parts, they were still building buildings in that time. There are a few eyesores on many of these campuses.
Yeah, I have no doubt. It's just I think this is a fun little article because they give you like the 5 best examples, and there's one in every borough. So anybody listening who lives in New York, I'll link in the show notes to this piece, and you can go out and you can find the beautiful school that still remains in your borough. Did you bring a last stop, Kieran?
I did bring a last stop. In a way, this would almost fit better in our A block where we catch up, because I think it's going to promote some discussion. We won't go into the full discussion here, but it's the trend that I'm seeing of these celebrity travel shows. And I don't partake in most of them. I will say I'm interested in a few of them. They're all, I think, were founded on top of Anthony Bourdain's travel show success, and everybody's trying to recapture that, get a new take on it. But man, is this like a genre that's proliferating. And Conan just won some Emmys for Conan Must Go. You have Eugene Levy, who's coming back with the Reluctant Traveler show. You, of course, have been talking about the Stanley Tucci shows. Searching for Italy is the name of the kind of bigger Italian travel show he does. CNN has a show that's built on, it's called Happy Places, where they get a celebrity to like return to a place that they love. Alan Cumming has an episode on that. If you weren't aware of that,
it just seems to me there's Island?
Still got it. I just am interested in whether, and I'd love for anybody to write into us if you're super passionate about these shows, or if you have found one of these shows. There's so many networks, so many streamers at this point that they're just trying to create so much content that I'm fearful that there is some great travel show out there that isn't being seen. So if you have a take on these travel shows, if you love them, if you hate them, if there's one that you want us to like get somebody from the show on the podcast, write us at outofofficepod@gmail.com, outofofficepod@gmail.com, and let us know.
Yeah.
Do you watch any of these, Ryan?
I've seen like clips of Conan. Obviously, I've seen all of Anthony Bourdain's, but that's also because I just love Anthony Bourdain so much.
Same.
So, but yeah, I haven't watched a ton of them. I'm interested in the Tucci one. The Eugene Levy one seems weird to me, but hey, he should come on the pod. I think
I am working on that.
Yeah, I think if I were a streamer, I'd be like, hey, who is some hip podcast host who could like bring their pod to our streamer, and that's what I would be looking at. Yeah,
I mean, there could be an out of office travel show. It's just an idea that I'm throwing out there. I mean, if you want to dive deep into Slovenian beekeeping with me, that's easy. That's easily a 3-hour miniseries.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And that's if you can get off the couch, Ryan, all that gin. And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
You book your ticket to St. Louis yet?
I had.
Last chance.
It has stopped following me right now. That's a deep cut.